Jared was a simple cargo pilot traveling to the outer rim of the Andromeda sector. He had seen many strange things in his years, but nothing could prepare him for what he was about to find. The stars stretched endlessly around him, cold and silent, yet something felt different tonight. His sensors picked up a faint energy signature ahead, unusual for this empty part of space. Curiosity tugged at him, and he adjusted his course to investigate. The ship appeared suddenly on his scanner, massive and dark, almost hidden against a backdrop of distant stars. Its design was aggressive, jagged lines and armored panels that seemed built for battle rather than travel. Jared squinted at the view screen, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The energy reading suggested life inside, but not human life. Something about the way the ship moved made his stomach twist with unease, as if it knew he was watching. Jared's instinct screamed at him to turn away, but he couldn't. Something deeper kept him glued to the scanner. He edged closer, careful not to trigger any alarms. And then he saw it. A small window opened briefly, revealing rows of alien figures chained and huddled together. Their bodies were strange, tall and thin with long arms. Their skin a mix of colors he had never seen, eyes wide with fear, and mouths moving silently as they whispered to each other. He blinked, unsure if he should believe his own eyes. But the image was clear, real, and horrifying. These aliens were prisoners, enslaved by someone, and the ship that carried them was not ordinary. Jared felt a cold sweat on his forehead. He had heard rumors about space pirates, cruel beings who captured aliens to sell or use for experiments, but he never imagined seeing it himself. The thought made his heart pound faster, and yet he couldn't look away. Every second that passed made the situation feel heavier. His mind raced with questions. What should he do? Could he call for help, or would that put the aliens in more danger? If the pirates noticed him, he might be next. He remembered his training as a cargo pilot, to avoid unnecessary risks. But this was not cargo, not a normal mission. These were living beings in desperate need, and he was the only one nearby who might help. Jared adjusted his ship's course slightly, trying to find a safer angle to observe. He activated a low-power sensor sweep, hoping to learn more about the ship's layout without being noticed. The readings were strange, showing multiple decks and compartments, and unusual energy patterns that suggested heavy security. He swallowed hard, realizing that just trying to understand the ship could be dangerous. The pirates might have sensors or patrols, and if they detected him, it would be over. Minutes passed like hours, and Jared studied the aliens again. His heart went out to them, imagining what they must feel, trapped in chains, powerless. Far from home, the longer he looked, the more he wanted to do something, anything. But he was alone, with only a small ship and limited weapons. The dilemma twisted inside him. Should he risk his life for strangers, or stay safe and watch silently? As he debated, a shadow moved across the ship's deck, just visible through the window. A figure, humanoid but heavily armored, walking among the aliens, checking their chains. The presence of the pirate reminded Jared of the danger. He froze, every muscle tensed, trying not to be detected. His mind raced with escape plans and rescue plans, all at once, but he knew he had little time. Then Jared floated silently in his small cockpit, staring at the massive pirate ship ahead. His sensors were still scanning, but the readings told him nothing he didn't already fear. The aliens inside were alive, breathing, suffering, and completely at the mercy of the pirates. He could feel their fear through the tiny glimpses he had seen through the windows. It was a feeling that weighed on him heavier than any cargo he had ever carried. He tried to think clearly, but every thought seemed tangled. Should he call for help? Could anyone even respond in this remote sector? He knew help might take hours, days, or even longer to arrive, and by that time, the aliens might be gone or worse, dead. His fingers hovered over the communicator, trembling, but he couldn't bring himself to press any button. The pirates might have sensors that could detect his signal, and he wasn't ready to risk it yet. Jared leaned closer to the view screen, watching as a patrol drone glided along the ship's exterior. The drone's sensors swept across the space where he floated, and his heart raced with every movement. He felt exposed, small, and fragile against the massive threat before him. Every second he spent thinking, every second he hesitated. Felt like a risk, yet he couldn't act blindly. He had to understand the situation first, or any move could mean disaster. He turned his attention back to the aliens, and for the first time, he tried to study them carefully. They weren't just creatures. They were intelligent beings. their faces showing expressions of despair, confusion, and hope. Some whispered to each other. Others sat silently, their eyes fixed on the floor, chained and powerless. Jared's chest tightened as he watched, and a deep anger started to grow within him. How could anyone treat living beings this way? The thought made him tense, and his hands gripped the controls. He remembered a time long ago when he had rescued a stranded crew from a minor accident, the relief on their faces, the joy of saving lives, and now, here he was again, staring at a much bigger challenge. One man alone against an entire pirate ship, and yet the spark inside him refused to die. He felt responsibility, fear, and courage all at once, tangled together like knots he couldn't untie. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the hum of his ship's systems, and then a shadow moved inside the pirate vessel, larger than the last. A pirate officer, tall, armored, moving along the deck with a whip in hand, checking on the slaves. Jared held his breath, every nerve alive with tension. He could almost feel the danger pressing through the vacuum of space, the unseen threat reaching toward him, ready to strike if he made a single mistake. Jared's mind raced, imagining what could happen if he made a wrong move. He could be captured or killed. The aliens could be punished, yet doing nothing felt worse than acting. His heart pounded as he weighed his options. The simplest choice was to turn away and leave, but he couldn't. The faces of the aliens haunted him, their silent cries for help echoing in his mind. It was as if they were speaking directly to him, pleading for a hero he didn't feel ready to be. He realized he needed a plan, something careful and clever, not reckless. He began studying patrol routes of the pirates, noting the timing, the blind spots, the sections where he might safely approach or hide. He imagined sneaking closer, learning the ship's layout, and perhaps finding a weak spot he could exploit. But the fear of being caught stayed heavy on him. Every sound of his own ship, every shadow from the pirate vessel, made his pulse spike. Then came a new worry. What if the aliens didn't want his help? What if he misread their intentions? He remembered reading about situations where trapped beings sometimes trusted outsiders blindly, leading to even more danger. Could he really risk assuming they wanted to be rescued? Could he risk their lives on his judgment alone? The moral weight of the decision pressed down on him, stronger than gravity, heavier than any cargo he had ever carried. He leaned back in his seat, trying to calm his mind, and thought of the alternative. If he did nothing, he could survive, he could escape, but the aliens would remain slaves, beaten, broken, powerless, and the thought made his stomach turn. He could not imagine living with that choice. Not after seeing them, not after feeling their silent pleas, and the fire of determination in his chest grew hotter, pushing him toward action. Jared finally made a decision, but it came with no promises. He would observe, he would learn, and he would wait for the right moment to act. Patience would be his weapon, caution his shield. He tapped a few controls, setting up hidden camera sweeps, mapping the pirate ship's energy flow, and noting areas where he might later make a move. Every click, every adjustment carried a risk, and he felt the weight of each one. As he watched, a small alien face turned again toward him, eyes wide and searching, the silent plea unmistakable. Jared's hands clenched into fists, and he whispered to himself, though no one could hear him, "I will help you, I promise." A sudden jolt from his ship shook him, a warning signal, maybe a stray meteor or a pirate probe. He froze, ears straining for any sound of detection, heart hammering in his chest. The unknown stretched before him, vast and dangerous, and yet, for the first time, he felt a purpose stronger than fear. He didn't know how he would do it. He didn't know if he could, but one thing was clear. He would not leave these aliens behind. Not when their eyes were asking for a hero, not when their chains called for freedom. And so, floating in the cold darkness of space, Jared prepared himself for the impossible, ready to face the pirates, ready to risk everything, ready to change. Lives, including his own. Something unexpected happened. One of the aliens lifted its head slightly and looked directly at him. Their eyes seemed to plead, a silent call for help. Jared's chest tightened, and he felt a surge of determination. He couldn't ignore them. Not now, not ever. At the same time, he heard a faint sound, a warning beep from his own ship. Something had triggered, and it might alert the pirates. Panic mixed with courage, and he realized that he had crossed a line. There was no turning back. He was involved now. He took a deep breath and steadied himself, checking his controls and weapons. He knew he had to stay calm, careful, and smart. Any wrong move could end everything, The pirate ship continued on its slow course, oblivious to his presence for now, but he could feel the tension building. Every second counted. Every decision mattered. Jared looked at the aliens again, and he made a choice. He would find a way to help them, even if he didn't know how yet. His journey had changed, from a simple cargo pilot to someone who might risk everything for beings he didn't even know. The stars around him felt colder, but inside, a fire of purpose began to burn. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew one thing. He could never forget the faces of those aliens, and he would not abandon them. Jared drifted silently in his ship, eyes locked on a massive pirate vessel. His mind raced with plans, possibilities, and worst-case scenarios. Every shadow across the pirate hull made him tense, as if the ship itself were alive and watching. He knew that one false move could end everything, yet the aliens' eyes haunted him, their silent cries urging him forward. He had waited, studied, and prepared, and now he decided it was time to make the first move. He activated the small communication module he had installed in the cargo bay, hoping it would reach the aliens without alerting the pirates. The device emitted only a faint signal, carefully disguised as background noise from a pirate ship's systems. Jared held his breath as he scanned for any response. Every second felt stretched, the silence pressing against him, and then a flicker, a tiny movement on the view screen. One of the aliens had noticed the signal, and it cautiously lifted its head, eyes wide with confusion and curiosity. Jared's heart leapt, and he adjusted the frequency, sending simple gestures, symbols, and sounds he hoped they could understand. He tried to show peace, no threat, only help. The alien blinked, and slowly it lifted an arm in imitation, a small but unmistakable sign of recognition. A surge of hope washed over him, but was quickly replaced by caution. The pirates were still patrolling, still armed, still dangerous, and any mistake could doom everyone. He studied the aliens more closely now, observing patterns, their subtle movements, the way they whispered to each other. Their language was alien to him, sounds and gestures he could barely interpret. Yet he began to notice something, a system, a rhythm, a way they responded to signals. He tried mimicking their gestures, simple hand movements and lights from his ship, hoping to create trust, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, they began to respond, a connection forming across the void, fragile but real. Jared's mind was electric with tension, excitement, and fear. He knew the pirates could notice the shift at any moment, yet he could not stop now. The alien who first responded moved closer to the others, whispering, pointing toward a section of the ship that seemed less guarded. Jared realized it was a hint. They were showing him a weak spot, a way he could eventually help them. But even this knowledge came with risk. He could not act without a plan. He had to think, wait, and observe further. As he studied the layout, he noticed a small supply hatch near the back of the deck, overlooked by the pirates, possibly a way in or out without immediate detection. The thought sparked a plan, a risky maneuver that might allow him to map the inner deck, gather intelligence, and even communicate more directly with the aliens, but it would require him to leave the relative safety of the vent, to expose himself to the patrols, and to trust his instincts completely. Jared's mind raced, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He thought of the aliens' faces, the silent pleas, and felt a surge of courage. Tempered by fear, he adjusted his position, tested the vent's panel, and prepared for the jump into the unknown. Every second counted. Every movement could mean life or death. His hands gripped the edge, his eyes scanning the guards, the drones, the layout, and then with one deep breath he moved, sliding silently into the supply hatch. He landed in a narrow corridor, the lights dim and flickering. He pressed himself against the wall, breathing shallowly, listening, calculating, aware that a single sound could bring disaster. The corridor led deeper into the ship, toward the area where the aliens were being held, and every step forward felt like a step closer to both salvation and danger. Jared paused, realizing the enormity of what he was doing. He was a lone human against a ship full of ruthless pirates, armed and ready to kill. Yet he felt a strange clarity, a purpose that overrode fear. He was no longer just a pilot observing from afar. He was now a part of the story unfolding on the pirate ship, a player whose next moves could decide the fate of the aliens and possibly his own. As he crept forward, the faint hum of the ship's engines vibrating to the floor beneath him, Jared caught a glimpse of one of the aliens through a small window in the reinforced deck. Their eyes met his, wide with hope and fear, and for a moment, Time seemed to freeze. The silent connection between them strengthened his resolve, reminding him why he was here, why he risked everything, and what was at stake. And in that frozen moment, a sudden alarm echoed to the ship, sharp and unexpected. Jared's heart stopped. The sound cut into the corridor like a knife. The pirates were aware. Something had triggered, and he had no idea if it was him, a patrol, or an automated system. Panic surged, but he forced himself to stay calm, to move quietly, to hide, and to think. Every decision now could mean life or death. Every breath was a gamble, every second a test. Jared pressed himself against the wall of the narrow corridor, the faint hum of the ship vibrating beneath his feet. Every breath felt heavy, every sound potential danger. The alarm had triggered, and somewhere deep in the pirate vessel, lights flickered red, casting long shadows across the metal floors. He knew the pirates would investigate, moving faster now, sharper, more alert. Yet he also knew this was the moment to act. He had waited too long, watched too long, and now, the time to save. The aliens had come. He crept forward slowly, careful to step only where the floor was solid and the shadows deep. The supply hatch had led him closer to the reinforced deck where the aliens were held, and every step brought him nearer to both hope and danger. His heart pounded in his chest, his palms sweaty on the grip of his small utility tool, a device he hoped could cut chains silently, disable small security locks, and give him a chance at freeing them. Through a small grated window, he saw a group of aliens clustered together, their faces pale, eyes wide, some whispering softly, others frozen in fear. The sight twisted Jared's stomach, a mix of anger, fear, and determination surging inside him. They were alive, fragile, and completely dependent on him. He took a deep breath, whispering under his breath, "I will get you out of here. Stay calm, trust me." He scanned the corridor, noting the patrol routes, the drone positions, and small blind spots. Then he moved, silent and deliberate, sliding into a side entrance that led directly behind one of the holding areas. The metal walls were cold against his skin, the ventilation vents echoing faint mechanical sounds. Every heartbeat was amplified in the silence, every breath a gamble, and yet he felt alive in a way he never had before. Reaching the first group of chains, he knelt quietly, examining the locking mechanism. It was crude but sturdy, designed to hold alien strength. He activated his tool, a low hum breaking the lock in seconds, and the chains fell away silently. The aliens froze, eyes wide, then slowly, hesitantly, began to move, trust mingling with fear. One of them reached toward him, a long, slender hand brushing his arm, and Jared felt a surge of hope, the first real sign that this might work. Suddenly, a sound echoed from the far side of the deck, the unmistakable clanging of boots. The pirates were coming, faster than he expected, and his pulse spiked. He had little time. He motioned for the aliens to follow him quietly, pointing toward a side corridor he had spotted from the vent earlier. Every step was tense, every turn a risk. The aliens shuffled behind him, whispering in their strange language, fear evident in every gesture. A drone passed above, its sensor scanning the area. Jared froze, heart pounding, wishing it would move on. The drone hovered for a moment, scanning carefully, then shifted. Leaving them unseen, he exhaled silently, signaling the aliens to move, every second now critical. Every shadow became a potential hiding spot, every sound a deadly threat. The reinforced area loomed ahead, more heavily guarded than anything he had seen. Yet he pressed forward, knowing hesitation would mean failure. They reached a narrow corridor, barely wide enough for a group to squeeze through. Jared stayed at the back, covering their movement, checking each turn and blind spot. The aliens followed hesitantly, trust and fear in their eyes, and he felt the immense weight of responsibility pressing down on him. One wrong move, one slip, and the pirates would destroy everything. Yet the determination to save them was stronger than fear, pushing him forward with every step. Then the unthinkable happened. A pirate officer appeared around a corner, weapon raised. Scanning the corridor, Jared froze, heart hammering, calculating in an instant. There was no room to retreat, no hidden space to duck. The officer's eyes swept the corridor, moving closer, ready to strike. Every second stretched, torturing him with suspense. And then, in a desperate move, Jared activated a small EMP pulse from his wrist device, briefly disabling the officer's scanner and drone circuits. The officer stumbled, confused, and Jared grabbed the nearest alien, pulling them quickly through a small maintenance door he had noticed. The others followed, tight and careful, moving silently despite their fear. The corridor narrowed further, but it led them closer to a vent system that connected to another part of the ship, a potential escape route. Jared felt the adrenaline rush through him, each movement precise, deliberate, and calculated. As they crawled through the vent, the sounds of pursuit echoed below, shouts from pirates and the clanging of boots making every step terrifying. The aliens whispered nervously, but Jared whispered back words of reassurance. Simple gestures, a hand on a shoulder, a nod of courage, guiding them through the darkness. They were alive, moving, trusting him where their hope both empowered and terrified him. As they crawled through the vent, the sounds of pursuit echoed below, shouts from pirates and the clanging of boots making every step terrifying. The aliens whispered nervously, but Jared whispered back words of reassurance. Simple gestures, a hand on a shoulder, a nod of courage, guiding them through the darkness. They were alive, moving, trusting him, and the weight of their hope both empowered and terrified him. Finally, they reached a larger vent leading to a storage area. Slightly dimmer, less patrolled, Jared paused, listening carefully, the tension cutting through him like ice. The sounds of pursuit were close, and he knew they might be discovered at any moment. He motioned for the aliens to stay hidden, pressing himself against the wall, ready to act at the first sign of danger. The ship felt alive around him, every vibration, every hum, every movement a reminder that they were in the heart of enemy territory. Jared's chest tightened with a mix of fear and exhilaration. He had taken the first real step toward freeing the aliens, but the hardest part was still ahead. The pirate ship was massive, full of dangers, and every corridor, every vent, every shadow held a threat of discovery. He looked at the small group behind him, their eyes wide, trusting, fragile, and he felt a fierce determination ignite inside. They would not fail, not here, not now. And then a distant voice echoed through the ship's intercom, calm but chilling. Intruder detected. The word sent a shiver down Jared's spine, every nerve alive with tension. The chase had begun, and there was no turning back. Every move now could mean life or death. Every second would test courage. Every breath would be a gamble. Jared pressed his back against the cool metal wall of the storage vent, heart hammering like a drum. The alarm echoed to the pirate ship, sharp and relentless, sending vibrations that rattled his very bones. The small group of aliens huddled behind him, whispering nervously in their strange language, and he felt the weight of their fear, the responsibility for their lives pressing down on him like the void outside. There was no turning back now. The pirates were hunting, and every step would be a deadly gamble. He led the group carefully through the vents, memorizing every twist and turn, noting potential escape points and places to hide. The pirates were relentless, their footsteps pounding to the corridors below, shouts and commands mixing with the hum of machinery. It was only a matter of time before they discovered the vent route, and Jared knew the final confrontation was approaching. His mind raced, devising a plan on the fly, knowing he had to strike with both courage and cunning. Finally, the vents opened into a central control corridor, dimly lit, buzzing with the energy of the ship's main systems. Jared peered out, seeing the pirate captain for the first time, tall and imposing, eyes sharp and calculating, surveying the area with a presence that demanded obedience. Guards patrolled in a tight formation, weapons ready, and drones hovered silently, scanning for intruders. Every instinct screamed danger. Yet this was the only way forward, the only path to freeing the aliens. Jared took a deep breath, whispering to the aliens to stay low and follow closely. They shuffled silently behind him, trusting him completely despite fear. The plan was simple but risky. He would distract the pirates, create chaos, and open the doors to the holding area, giving the aliens a chance to escape. Every movement had to be precise, every sound controlled, or they would all be captured or killed. He activated a small device on his wrist, sending a pulse through the ship systems, briefly disabling the surveillance drones. The hum of electronics stuttered and died for a moment, plunging the corridor into partial darkness. The pirates froze, unsure what had happened, and Jared seized a moment, moving swiftly to a control panel, fingers flying over buttons and switches, overriding the doors to the holding area. Suddenly, a pirate guard turned, catching sight of movement. He shouted a warning, Raising his weapon and chaos erupted, Jared dug behind a bulkhead, pulling the nearest alien with him, while some pirates scrambled toward the alarms. Others aimed weapons down the corridor. Jared pressed a second button on the panel, releasing a smoke cloud that filled the corridor, obscuring vision and forcing the pirates to retreat. He could hear shouts, footsteps, and the clanging of metal as confusion spread, giving him a crucial advantage. Through the haze, Jared led the aliens into the holding area, chains and locks disengaging under the pressure of his device. The aliens moved quickly but cautiously, understanding the urgency. Some whispered thanks, others froze in disbelief, but all followed him, trusting the human who had risked everything for them. Meanwhile, the pirate captain barked orders, his voice booming, demanding to capture the intruders. Every second now was critical, every step a gamble. Jared saw the main exit, a hatch leading to a smaller storage bay that connected to one of the ship's auxiliary shuttles. Their escape route was narrow and dangerous, but it was the only option. He motioned for the aliens to move quickly, silently, every gesture precise. As the pirate forces recovered from the smoke, their boots pounding closer, weapons ready, their shouts echoed through the corridor, growing louder with every second. And Jared felt the pressure, the weight of the moment, pressing down like a vice. Then a sudden movement caught his eye. The pirate captain himself emerged from the smoke, eyes blazing, weapon raised, blocking the exit. Jared froze, calculating an instant. He had to act, now or never. Every decision could mean life or death. He grabbed a small energy disruptor from his belt, aiming at the captain, and activated it, a blinding pulse surging forward, hitting the captain's armor and throwing him off balance. The guards hesitated, caught between order and confusion, giving Jared and the aliens the precious seconds they needed. They ran, hearts pounding, lungs burning, through the narrow corridor, every step measured, every shadow a threat. The pirates scrambled behind them, but Jared had planned the route carefully, using secondary vents and hidden panels to stay one step ahead. They emerged into the auxiliary shuttle bay, the small craft waiting, engines humming. Shields ready, Jared pushed the aliens inside, helping them climb, one by one. As alarms blared to the pirate vessel, the captain's voice screamed through the corridors, but it was too late. Jared was the last to enter, pulling the hatch closed just as pirate guards reached the bay. He fired the engines, sending the shuttle surging forward, dodging laser fire, weaving through the ship's structural beams. Every second a fight for survival. The alien passengers held their breath, eyes wide, trust and fear mixing, but the human pilot navigated with precision, every movement calculated, every risk measured, and finally, the shuttle cleared the pirate vessel, emerging into the cold void of space. Silence followed, heavy and deep, broken only by the hum of the shuttle engines. Jared exhaled slowly, his chest heaving, scanning the alien passengers, who now looked at him with a mixture of awe, gratitude, and relief. They were free, at least for now, though the danger of the pirates still lingered, like shadows at the edge of the stars. Jared realized that this was only the beginning, that the fight for freedom, for survival, for hope, was far from over. And as he set a course away from the pirate ship, heart still racing, he whispered to himself and to the aliens, "We made it this far, but the journey is not done." The stars stretched endlessly before them, cold, silent, and infinite. Yet within that darkness, hope glimmered, fragile, shining, and alive, and Jared knew, with certainty, that he would face whatever came next for the sake of the aliens, for the sake of justice, for the sake of courage that had driven him this far. The shuttle floated in the cold, endless black of space, engines humming softly, carrying a fragile group of aliens and their human savior away from the pirate ship. For a moment, silence reigned, heavy and tense, broken only by the occasional whisper of an alien. Still unsure if they were truly safe, Jared's chest heaved, exhaustion mixing with relief. The danger was not gone, not completely, but the immediate threat had passed, and for now, that was enough. He scanned the stars ahead, charting a course toward the nearest friendly sector, a region where he could contact authorities without fear of pirate retaliation. But even as he navigated, he knew the pirates would not give up so easily. The vessel they had escaped from was massive, heavily armed, and angry. Its crew would be looking for them, hunting them across the void, and the fear of pursuit weighed on him, sharpening his senses, making every decision critical. The aliens were quiet, some still huddled in corners, staring at the empty expanse of space. Their expressions a mixture of awe, fear, and hope. Jared tried to reassure them, speaking softly, using gestures he learned from their subtle movements. "You are safe for now," he said, though his voice carried the tension he could not hide. "We'll find a safe place." They nodded slowly, eyes wide, trust beginning to grow after the terror they had endured. As the shuttle moved deeper into space, an unexpected signal lit up his console, a warning from a distant patrol fleet nearby. "Pirates detected in Sector Delta 7. It read, sending a chill through Jared's spine. The pirates had begun tracking him already, following from a distance, patient, calculating, deadly. He realized his escape would not be simple, and that the journey to safety would be as perilous as the rescue itself. Every choice would have to be perfect, or the lives of the aliens, and his own could be lost. He adjusted the shuttle's trajectory, using asteroid fields and debris clouds to mask their movement, weaving through the space like a shadow, slipping past sensors and patrols with calculated precision. The aliens clutched each other, some whispering words he could not understand, but the meaning was clear, fear mixed with gratitude, and he felt a deep responsibility to carry them through the danger, to honor their trust. Every turn, every maneuver, carried the weight of survival, of hope, of courage. Suddenly, a shadow appeared in the distance, massive and unmistakable. The pirate vessel had not given up, following relentlessly, its weapons glowing faintly as it tracked their course. Jared's hands moved instinctively over the controls, calculating evasive maneuvers, using every piece of knowledge he had gained during the infiltration. Every second was a battle, every decision a gamble. The shuttle dodged, weaved, and slipped through asteroid belts, narrowly avoiding laser fire, his heart hammering with each close call. One of the aliens pointed at a distant moon, its surface glowing faintly with the promise of civilization. "There," it said, in broken words, and Jared understood, a safe haven, a place to land and regroup. They accelerated toward it, weaving through debris and carefully timed obstacles. The pirate ship closed in, relentless, but Jared's skill and courage pushed them forward. Every instinct honed to survival. Every heartbeat, every breath, every movement mattered. Finally, the shuttle skimmed the atmosphere of the moon, shields glowing as the friction burned around them. Jared guided the vessel down, careful, precise, avoiding patrols and sensors. The aliens gasped as the shuttle touched down safely in a hidden valley, lush with alien vegetation, a secret haven for those who had escaped tyranny. Relief washed over him, heavy and intoxicating, as the group disembarked, stretching limbs cramped from the long, tense journey. They looked at him with eyes full of gratitude. Hope rekindled in their hearts, and Jared felt a quiet satisfaction, not from victory, but from having survived, having protected, having saved lives that depended on him. He allowed himself a small smile, a rare moment of peace in the endless void of danger. Yet, even as he watched the aliens explore the valley, his mind remained alert, aware that the galaxy was still dangerous, that pirates and threats lurked in shadows, waiting, calculating. Patient, Jared realized that he had changed something fundamental, not just for these aliens, but for himself. He had faced fear, risked everything, and emerged not as a simple cargo pilot, but as someone who had made a difference, someone who had stood up against cruelty. He looked at the stars above, endless and infinite, and whispered softly, "This is just the beginning," knowing that new challenges, new adventures, and new battles awaited. But for now, there was hope, there was survival, there was life, and that was enough. And as the sun rose over the alien valley, casting long golden beams across the landscape, Jared felt a deep, unshakable certainty that courage, intelligence, and heart could change the course of events, that one person could make a difference, even in the vastness of space. The aliens looked at him not just as a savior, but as a symbol of hope, and Jared knew, in the silence of the alien world, that this story, their story, had only just begun.